you guys as well. I think you have certainly a lot to provide. My first question, though, and it was the first time I heard CLIL, this is the solution to all, especially state schools. I said, right, okay, what is CLIL? How many acronyms are there in our sector? And this was another one. So I said, right, okay, can anybody help me with the acronym? Because I'm terrible.
It's content and language and integrated learning.
Con okay, so content and
Oh,
language integrated learning.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yep. Okay. So basically mixing the content of what you're teaching with the language that you're teaching, put it all together in a melting pot and then go, right. Okay. So what would you I mean, we heard from Sophia say earlier about her experiences. What would you say then? How was the definition of CLIL?
Essentially incorporating elements that might not be focused in a syllabus in a teaching English syllabus, that such as maths, geography, and teaching it only in English, so that they're learning everything to do with it, the vocab, the grammar, and starting to think in the language, and it involves kind of a higher kind of processing
Mm,
in order
good.
to maybe for further study.
Mm,
It could be useful for people going to university that want to be an engineer. So let's look at physics and English, or if you have a job, again,
yep. So those
specific.
higher order thinking strategies as well. Yeah. Yeah. Austin, Sophia, Summer, is there anything you'd like to add to that? Thanks,
Can it
Daniel.
also include cultural aspects, like learning about the culture of the language or the country that they're learning in as well?
Yeah.
And it's closer um to the process of learning the native language from like a mother to the kids,
Oh, right. Yeah.
because it's more natural. Um it's
If,
again planned,
mm,
but freer in a way, um because you're not learning only about ELT content, but a broader content, um, to learn about the world.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So basically, they're learning what they naturally would in their first language. I
Exactly.
think Danielle said geography, maths, history, or something, but instead of it being in their first language, it's in
Mhm.
their second language, okay, English in this case. No? So, as you say, much more natural. Okay. We'll have a look at the impact of that, both on teachers and students a bit later. Summer, is there anything else you'd like to add? No pressure to add anything. You just go.
No, I don't have.
No, okay, brilliant, excellent. So let's have a look at some of the definitions, but and maybe how they've evolved over time. Um, so here is one definition. You can see at the bottom where it's taken from. I'm not going to read these out to you because I know you guys can read. Um, I was subjected yesterday to death by PowerPoint to have somebody reading out all the text on the slide, so I won't subject that to you. Would you say that summarizes kind of the idea that you had? Yeah, Danielle, I think that hits a nail on the head generally, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, like personally, I always like to avoid the N word, um, which is this one, just because of its connotations. But I don't think it's used in that context. So let's have a look at the way it's changed. Definitions have, I mean, of CLIL. So we can see it may concern language. As Austin said, there's an intercultural knowledge kind of invested in that in the teaching as well. So that was from Marsh in 2002. It moved on, obviously, because I think the good thing about our sector is it tends to move a lot quicker than state education and I think influences as well. Therefore, in 2006, focus a little bit on meaning. And I think the idea there is, listen, can you grasp the concept of what we're teaching here in geography or whatever? Yeah, fine. Let's not focus on the details of the language and whether this is a verb or an adjective or noun, but no, just the general concept. And moving on to just a year later, it became quite popular in many with many educational departments around the world. I think it was sold as, right, this is how you're going to get your whole country up to speed as regards English. You're going to really, from the grassroots up, you're going to bring the level of English up, make it, sort of provide an international focus and international opportunities. It's certainly part of Egypt's 2030 plan. And I mean, I was lucky enough to be involved in writing some of the materials for that. We'll have a look at kind of how CLIL transfers to materials a bit later as well. And I think that's in 2007 where this umbrella term became used. And that's where I think the definition became a little bit, used more vaguely and widely, which is, well, sometimes if you teach a bit of geography concepts at the end of a unit of an English language teaching course book, they'll say, right, that's CLIL, that's your CLIL bit. A very good example, and none of this is a criticism, it's just an example, is a Cambridge University Press publication called Kids Box. If you've ever used or taught young learners, it's a course book which is a joy to use. Actually, I've heard some teachers say it kind of teaches itself because it's so well written and presented. And the Kids Box series has their ELT units, the standard sort of structure and syllabus, and then towards the end, they would include that syllabus element. The reason for that, well, there are lots, but one of them was to make that publication attractive to state schools or semi-private schools who are following a national curriculum. So they could say, listen, we are doing CLIL. And that's where this umbrella term became stretched a little bit, And just like every approach or method, there is, I think Marissa said, the very strict, formal kind of a approach to it. And then, it works on a climb, doesn't it? And then there is a lighter version of it or an adapted version of it. And we can see this, the definition in 2009, taken from the TKT CLIL handbook. Yeah, I think Marissa also mentioned Italy, where it's huge, as well as in Spain. So you can see slightly evolving definitions. And we mentioned the hard CLIL and the soft CLIL and what that might look like. And can look like different, appear in different ways in the classroom. Is an example of maybe what a particular curriculum might look like if it's soft CLIL, somewhere in the middle, or certainly hard CLIL. I think what Sophia was suggesting, where would you say you would put that experience, Sophia?
I'd say hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Because everything was integrated in the program, every different
Right.
aspect of life experience, courses, topics.
Interesting. Yeah. Can
So
I?
I had to be a gym teacher, a music teacher, let's say, all different kinds of roles, apart from an ELT teacher.
And so this was at primary level, though, you said, is that right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
only
yeah.
3-year-old children.
Okay, so, I mean, if that was what you were doing, I'm just going to stop so we can discuss that a little bit more. You were sort of basically teaching. It was almost like you're in a British, I don't like the term, but the British
Mm.
school, weren't you? You know, it's like, listen, we are teaching everything, but it's in English. But then you did say the same was taught in Greek by Greek
Yes,
teachers
yes,
as
we
well.
were together, and the other teacher was talking in Greek, and I
Oh, okay.
was talking in English. But then we had some separate hours that I would do phonics, for example,
Right.
or a fairy tale or a song in English, for example,
Mm,
or maths in English, and then some other hours that she would do an exercise on phonics on Greek letters, Greek sounds, for example, or a fairy tale in Greek, and so on. But some of the activities we did together, so we cooperated, and she was explaining what we did. For example, if we were cooking, making a cake, she
mm.
was explaining it in Greek, and I did it in English. So
Interesting.
yes.
Who would give the explanation first? You or the other
Mhm.
teacher?
What did you
Who
say?
who would give the explanation, for example, the cake first? You or the other teacher?
At first, at the first months, maybe
Mm,
the Greek teacher would dominate, but she would start first and have to explain things so that I would take over. But then eventually, gradually, you would see that they would actually they could actually understand everything I said after one point in English. And like we didn't need her
oh,
assistance, let's say.
okay. Right.
Yes, it was really impressive.
Wonderful.
Interesting, because somehow in the beginning it sounded as if there was a translation element in
Mm,
this.
Yes, the first month or two, because it was totally new for them. There were just 3-year-old kids who uh,
mm.
were surprised. "Well, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
What is he saying?"
and the
But
native
then,
language is is comfort to a child sometimes, you know, if
Mm,
mm,
it gives them some comfort. So we need to accept that when
yeah,
it's
we're very young
true.
children. Hmm. Okay.
And especially, obviously, starting school at 3. I mean, already psychologically, that's a bit daunting, isn't it? And
exactly.
then all of a sudden, you get this person in front of you talking this weird language that you don't understand either. It's like, whoa, whoa, I didn't sign up for this. Mm,
Exactly. So we were also caretakers. We would need to clean them, feed them, hug
mm.
them, kiss them, be like
Uh,
mummies at some point.
Oh, now who doesn't remember their primary school teacher? Come on, there's all. Wow, yeah, yeah, no, definitely, yeah. So it's lovely the way you phased it in, and then thought, right, okay, let's gradually. It's change management, something we'll be
Mhm.
talking about in the ELT management, essentially, but of how to introduce that. Lovely idea. Okay, thanks for sharing. So we can see, yeah, soft, hard CLIL, and how that's introduced, yeah, in different ways. So from, Sophia's anecdote, if anybody else has anything else they'd like to share their experience, or something they've heard, feel free to do so. If we just again have a look at soft and hard CLIL and their context and how to do things, what might we see as the benefits of CLIL?
Essentially, everything that Sophia was saying, that eventually, it peters out the usage of L1. I guess the negative aspect, if that's subtractive bilingualism, and actually, you completely the Greek is phased out and they start only answering and speaking in English, that might be a bit of a problem. But as long as it stays, this additive bilingualism, um, that's one huge positive aspect. I mean,
It's a good point, Daniel. You touch upon that. Is it translanguaging, that idea of being also accepting the students, that maybe the teacher asks a question in English, but the students reply in Greek or their first language. That's fine. It demonstrates understanding. That's
Exactly, yes.
we're focusing on meaning. We're not focusing on language here, and eventually the language, as Sophia's demonstrated, that'll come.
Yeah. Can I add something?
Yes, Sama, please do.
I just need to add that I teach in international school, which basically adopt English language for all subjects since pre-KG, like 3 years old. And because Arabic is like way different and difficult than English in rules and even grammar, the structure of Arabic is way different and difficult. So I feel, and it's not in only I noticed this year, every year I notice that because the kids they get used to language, the English language, it becomes they started to apart and hate learning Arabic. It becomes they struggle with Arabic nowadays. They don't like it, and because they exposed like a lot of English the whole time, so when they have Arabic listen, the teacher struggles with them. Even like when they learn a new Arabic, it's their language, and still, can you say it in English so we can understand? So this is what we are struggling nowadays.
Wow.
Yes. Especially young learners, because they enter the school speaking English the whole time. Their parents, they feel so proud, so they also talk to them in English. And then when they come to school in Arabic lesson, the teacher struggles.
So
And
is English the home language sometimes with some families then as well?
No.
No. Okay.
They speak English with their kids, but we always to give them the awareness that this is wrong. Try to, because L1 is very essential and it's very important.
Yes,
But
I agree with
I
you.
felt that learning a second language, especially when it's easier than the mother language, it's very difficult then to get used to the Arabic language, like in classes. What I
So
feel
the
with
language
my
at
kids.
home is not separate, language at home and language at school. The parents are struggling to get them into English. So they're depriving them of the ability to be truly bilingual, right? Like if you
Yes.
have two different
Yeah.
parent nationalities, one of them would be always speaking their mother tongue and the other.
Both speaking that. Yeah.
A little bit like that. I don't know about your children, Paul.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking as you were saying that. So my children, so my wife's Spanish. Our home language is English, so I communicate in English with my wife basically because my Spanish is terrible. She doesn't put up with it, and so although yes, she speaks to them in Spanish, I speak to them in English, and I think for the first few years that they were before they went to preschool. They were with me most of the time in the mornings. Their English, English was their dominant language. As soon as they went to school, it was Spanish-speaking school. We didn't send them to a bilingual school or anything, because we wanted them to integrate into society as well, and because we knew they'd have that at home. Then it very quickly changed. Then a bias. I mean, Sam has touched upon bias, linguistic bias there. They then. Because they would come out of school and I would talk to them in English and their friends would look at them weird, what's wrong with your mouth was one of the phrases that kids use, why are you talking weird like that? That would embarrass them because they felt different. And obviously at that age, they want to be, they don't want to be different. It's very self-conscious. Now they're actually fine with it. Just yesterday I was at an art exhibition of my sons and we were talking in English and everyone was like, oh, wow, and he was going, yeah, I also talk English, so he's gotten over that, but I mean he's 21, he's taken his time to get over that, but so I think when Sama was saying that idea of, well, now they're, her students are how would I say, almost looking down on Arabic. I wonder whether it's a
Yes.
social status as well. It's, you know, it's, well,
That's sad.
Yes.
yeah,
Even because they are exposed to YouTube, all the reels, all the
that's exactly what I was
movies,
going to say.
everything in English. So it becomes
Everything, yeah.
like by nature that this is what we really like. It's much easier than
It's cool
um,
also. It's so
Arabic.
cool.
Mm,
Yeah.
isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's
yeah.
happening a lot in the capitals here in Spain. So if you go to Madrid and if you wanted to be, you know, part of the, you know, the in crowd, you literally every third or fourth word has to be an English word. For example, voy a comer brunch con mis besties. Y luego voy a ir al, I don't know, and you just go, what? Now, that brings in that, you know, code switching and how mentally draining that can be. But I think the richness, Sam, as you said, and you're absolutely right, is in the bilingual brain. I mean, I'm not bilingual. The closest I compare bilingualism to is, you know, if you were talking to your best friend here, and then I don't know, the King of England here, and the register you would use, you know, the way you would talk to them, and you switch very quickly. That's the closest sort of concept I get for, you know, to that bilingual brain. But it's interesting, isn't it, that linguistic bias that CLIL might encourage. So although we were exploring benefits, we've touched upon a possible drawback.
Well, we're very critical people. We
Yeah,
want to explore all aspects.
yeah, definitely.
And also to explore how it can be integrated into maybe not so hot, CLIL hot environments. What's the soft side of CLIL that more teachers can embrace? That would be interesting. So
Definitely,
looking forward to getting a few ideas from you on that.
Cool. Let's have a look at just a few. I mean, a few more. We've probably mentioned some of these already. Obviously, there's kind of the big question about translation and using it. It's a big debate, obviously, in our sector. To be honest, well, there are pros and cons, aren't there, to using translation. I see it as a benefit personally, but only if the teacher is competent enough in the language to be able to. I've made mistakes. I've translated things in class where I had a 10-year-old student who actually corrected me and said, no, teacher, you got that wrong. And so I very quickly stopped that until I improved my level of Spanish. And, you know, and fine, brilliant. Yeah, don't do it until you're, you know, absolutely sure. Or allow students, you know, you bilingual dictionaries. Oh, well, everything's online nowadays. Well, can find that as well.
When I
I
was
think,
trying,
yeah, go on.
sorry.
No, go.
When I was teaching CLIL in the preschool that I was talking about, a student would do that who was really, really good. He could understand everything I said. And when the other kids were like, what is he saying? He would translate to
Brilliant.
them. He would explain
Yeah.
what I
That was
was
your
talking
assistant.
about.
That was
Yes.
your teaching assistant.
A little assistant who
Yes.
I don't know how he could understand everything I said. It was
Some brains are
unbelievable.
hardwired for
Kids are
language
really
learning.
smart. They are really, really smart.
They are, aren't they? They pick things up very
They
quickly.
surprise us with how much they can analyze and understand that language.
Yeah, Danielle, you going to?
No, that's it. I agree. It's incredible.
Definitely, and I think that is kind of where we need to maybe stand back a little bit more. This idea as well, you know, a few years ago, that concept of a fidget spinner came in, you know, because basically students have to be doing more than one thing. Well, not students, human beings nowadays, because just doing the same old thing that's far too boring. No, I've got to be doing several things all at the same time. So I don't know about you, but I've seen people watching a film while on a tablet doing something different. Marissa holds her hand up. Yeah, I was going to mention my wife, but she does the same.
I confess, guilty.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't got the brain cells for that. Unfortunately,
You think I do?
yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. But notice then, that benefit of CLIL, it scratches that itch. We're seeing, the younger generations, they are smart cookies. They're able to do several things at the same time. So maybe when CLIL was first introduced, maybe society wasn't completely ready for it. Now, yeah, now it's not a problem at all. I think the focus on meaning and the movement away from language accuracy and grammatical accuracy and and that idea of, well, just express the idea, let's get the concept in our heads, and moving away from maybe old school sort of traditional approaches to language learning. Certainly, I think Danielle said critical thinking, sort of higher order thinking skills, definitely. And Sama touched upon the whole future proofing idea, that concept of, well, listen, first of all, if you don't speak a second language, you're in the minority. And second of all, what is that second language? Well, it's probably got to be English, hasn't it, really? Plus, what else? Is it Chinese, Arabic, one of the big ones, obviously, or another one, doesn't matter. Plus, think about it, it staves off things like Alzheimer's, maybe, So lots of benefits. Even more. Here are a few more. I'll let you have a look at a few of those. Any of them jump out at you of things that you possibly haven't thought about?
I like the idea of the holistic and top-down approach quite a lot.
Mm.
What does the 2x1 indicate?
Yeah, good question. It's something we would probably really said already. 2 for the price of 1. You get geography and English.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned about one thing, whether the concept, when we talk about particularly young learners, so when we're talking about older students, I don't think this matters that much. But in teaching young learners, usually you think about introducing new concepts. It should be in the dominant language, and that is usually the mother tongue. And then you introduce the concept in the foreign language. So what's the order? Would you like to give us some information on that?
Well, again, I think that's where we go from soft to hard, and that's where you need to ask either the education department of the government if they're dictating, what's got to be done. What do you want to be done? How do you do it? Or it could be the local, the actual school itself, the headmaster. Personally, as I've seen it, and I think as Sophia mentioned, notice the way when it's first introduced, maybe, the dominant language might predominate, therefore. But then I'm going to pick up on Sophia's comment there, which was eventually we didn't need the other teacher. We she was laid off, right? Okay, yeah. Sorry, you're redundant. No, and that's probably the phase where I would suggest the objective is to swap, that you present the concept in English, because eventually you will get students who can say, oh yeah, I can explain that. Or you can actually then stop and say, right, so I've presented this in English, we've had a look at it, who can then tell me in their first language what it's all about? I mean, another way around that is then the project that because it's very project based, CLIL, isn't it? The project you ask them to present, you could say, present it in your first language. And that's going to be evidence of learning and consolidating that in that second language. But I think it comes down to the soft or hard CLIL. Where are you on that climb? and what you want to do, you know. So yeah, no, good question. I think we would, I mean, I touched upon that whole idea of project-based things as well, and that collaborating together has an impact just on the classroom setup. You know, the CLIL classroom would not have traditional rows of seats. They would be in groups, or they should be in groups, you know. So you can walk into a classroom and see what's the thinking here, you know, what's the approach here. And the collaborative skills are certainly ones that more and more are required, especially you know, we've spoken about just how connected the whole world is. Therefore, collaboration, whether it be online or face to face, is a must, I think, just about in any sector, isn't it? So lots of benefits. These were the benefits also sold to education departments, state education departments. Look, you're going to save so much, you know, money, because you're going to bolster the English department. You're going to come away with wonderful bilingual hordes of students. They're going to then, you know, bring business, international business to the country. Wow, money. Look, this is only going to be for the benefit of the country. And yeah, it's a good sell, definitely. However, just like everything, has drawbacks. We mentioned some of them. Any others thinking about state? So bigger kind of, you know, when a whole country says, right, we're going CLIL.
How do you know that a language teacher can teach all these other subjects as well, has that knowledge?
Bingo. Definitely.
Can I add something?
Please, yeah.
I think teachers, they need a lot of workshops, a lot of practices, a lot of courses to understand and teach in this way. So I think it's going to be expensive for school to afford professional and academic teachers to give such curriculum.
Certainly can be. Definitely. I mean, it's a rewriting of course books, possibly, or production of new course books. Certainly material. You know, if we're going to make that transition, where do I get this material from now all of a sudden, you know? Flip side to that, publishing companies were, you know, when many education boards were saying, yeah, let's take this on country-wise, they were going, wow, brilliant, right, this is a big sell, lovely, let's make those changes. However, I think something that I've experienced and seen here in Spain, and I think Marissa mentioned Italy. I know, speaking to other teachers, something similar happened in Italy. It was almost an overnight phenomenon. It was maybe around May, the end of one academic year. In Spain, the local provinces are in charge of, so autonomous communities are in charge of education, and they've gone, right, guess what we're going to do in September? We're going to go CLIL. And you should see the faces of that geography teacher who's been teaching geography for the last 35 years. Here in Spain, the dominant second language in the past used to be French. So they were great at French. And now they have to teach geography in English. They're going, well, hello.
Sounds like COVID.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You all go online.
Go online. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't matter that you're not trained.
Exactly.
All of you become online teachers. So the panic was phenomenal as well.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. The difference is COVID was unexpected.
Yeah.
This was like, well, we could have planned ahead and provided training and everything, you know. But no, we were sold the benefits. We saw it. We want to be in with the
do
rest
it on
of
the cheap side.
And so it's kind of sink or swim. And I mean, my son's teachers, you know, were actually using my children to help with translation. So I kind of asked, well, does that mean you get part of their salary as well then, or what? I mean, unfortunately not. They didn't come home with any pay packets. They just come home with badly written worksheets, So what did they do? They said, okay, right, it won't be on the key subjects. So it'd be like art, PE. We'll do that. Although it had to be in one or two of the key subjects. So that was kind of an issue, right? Taking into account that old school teachers, remember, they haven't had that sort of foundation from an early beginning in English. Now that's changing here in Spain, and therefore you are getting the teachers who started learning, English as a child at 3 years old and that sort of thing, coming up through the ranks. Now they've got a solid level of English. But you're also faced with the fact that, and Sama touched upon it, everybody's connected now. The internet is great for learning a language and just existing in English. And a lot of the time, the students have a higher level of English than the teacher.
That's a problem.
Because the teachers have enough on their plate teaching and correcting and doing everything without then also having to go to an English language course to boost their level of English, and haven't got time for everything. So
There have been some shocks like that around the world, like Russian teachers were suddenly made to teach English, although the English was elementary. I mean,
right.
The flip side of this.
Mm.
There's an interesting system in Turkey, if I may allow to.
Mm.
They have a year, I can't remember if it's at the age of 11 or 12, and they call it OTA. And during that year, the school subjects are paused, and the children are doing English, just English as a foreign language throughout the school year. And then after the OTA year, they are split. They go into some kind of CLIL where history and Turkish language are taught in the mother tongue, but science, mathematics, other subjects, I don't know, art, whatever, PE, they're taught in English. So they have a preparatory year, and then they split the curriculum into that kind of way, which seems quite interesting and quite logical. I don't know if that happens in other countries.
An interesting idea, interesting concept, isn't it? Mm. Okay. Are there any, would you say there are any other drawbacks to CLIL? I mean, Sam has touched upon some.
Maybe as I can, from my experience, and I hear the teachers what they struggle with, it's regarding the assessments. Sometimes the teacher doesn't know if she has to assess according, like basically looking at the language or content, especially if it's biology, if it's literature or physics. And some students they are better in speaking than writing. When they come to writing, they write sentences that the teacher cannot understand. So this is what also they struggle with. Like make it correct. Like she understand the idea in physics, but she can't explain it in English well.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, kind of confusion in either one language or another, or perhaps even both. Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, good point. So here, there are a few, and some of them you've certainly already mentioned. So obviously the sort of the poor level or the weak level of the actual student in English, they're coming to these maybe hard CLIL courses, lessons, and they just can't follow the language. So they're failing geography and history and maths or something. And then what do you do? So and that kind of could lead to segregation of students. Ideally, it requires differentiated learning, maybe, but that's added work for the teacher, isn't it? Maybe having to produce 3 different types of projects or worksheets, or or depending on the level of their students. I've also
AI can help with that these days.
Definitely, I think that's
something that would be a great help for the teacher. Produce one worksheet for a higher level and then ask AI to help you kind of tone it down for weaker learners.
Provide
Certainly,
more scaffolding.
teachers are not paid for preparing 3 lessons instead of 1.
This is it. This is a good point.
Which is a logistical problem. It's
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, that teachers need to eat and sleep as well, don't they?
Sure.
Definitely. I mean, something I've seen in lessons as well is the watering down of a subject or the target language. So, it's taught in the first language, and then there's a few kind of English words added on there. And they said, oh, yeah, this is a walnut. There we go. You've got your English word. Off you pop. So, there's that high cognitive load required, obviously, students. We mentioned the fidget spinner, the way they can do so many things, but it's high demand as well, And remember that after classes, students often go home, and then, mum and dad cart them off to extracurricular activities as well. It's like, oh, leave me alone. What about those with learning difficulties? How do they adapt? And then something I've experienced as well is parents, phoning up the school saying, how can I help? I want to help my son or daughter with geography, maths, history or something, but I can't because it's in English and my English is not up to it. What do I do? And then we've already mentioned the poor subject teachers as regards their level of English. They might be excellent maths teachers, but doing the same in English. But then there's another element, and I think this is where our sector can help massively, is the methodology of teaching maths or geography or history in English needs to therefore change in a CLIL context. It can't be the same old. It needs to adapt. And I think Marissa mentioned, COVID and online teaching and emergency remote teaching was, we do the same, but we do it online. And we've discovered that doesn't work. Right, fine. Okay, so CLIL is the same thing. Okay, we do the same, but we just do it in English. No, we don't. It has to change. It has to change fundamentally. And I think I'd love to have groups and groups and groups of geography, history, maths teachers and teach them the methodology that we use in ELT and say, this is how you can transmit and check concepts better. And I think, therefore, CLIL teachers with an ELT background are certainly those with the advantage. So let's move on. Lots of pros and cons. So it's not kind of black and white, is it? Let's have a look at the content. And the content is divided into what is called the 4 C's. Obviously, the essential content. So the geography, the history, the maths, the communication. And the aims of that, obviously increasing, again, acronym, student talking times, STT, and reducing teacher talking time, TTT. So the idea of, we mentioned project work and collaborative activities together, with the focus on meaningful communication and the focus on meaning, not the language. Obviously, the cognition, as I think Danielle mentioned before as well, that higher order sort of thinking as well. And Austin mentioned culture. So you already mentioned those 4 C's, which are essential elements in CLIL. there are a couple of other key concepts in the CLIL classroom. I'm just going to show you pictures with the idea to help you remember them. They don't represent what they stand for, okay? Here are the two acronyms, BICS and CALP. CALP is a village in Alicante, Spain, okay? But that's not what it stands for. And BICS, I hope you get very excited when you get one of these pens. I'm showing my age, I suppose. I used to. That was the level of technology I was used to in my day, you know. So, quick question, then this is where we get you guys doing a little bit of the leg work as well. Can you tell us what BICS and CALP in a CLIL context might stand for, take into account you all have access to the internet?
Okay, we're allowed to look.
You are.
If we can look, that's great.
Yeah, don't worry, it's not an exam. You're not going to get
BICS is for basic interpersonal communicative skills.
brilliant, excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
And I see here
And
CALP
CALP
is cognitive academic language proficiency. Sounds
Bingo,
great.
there we go. Excellent. Look at that project.
I knew that.
thanks to ChatGPT.
Yeah, working together. Great. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, excellent. So, yeah, basic interpersonal skills. I think in one kind of research by Cummins, 2001, it was in Canada, showed how immigrant learners, just over 2-3 years, gained these very pretty quickly in the target language, and were able to interact much more naturally in the target language because of that as well. So I think Sam had touched upon, and I think Austin also mentioned culture and how students need to be comfortable in communicating in that language. I'm a Cambridge and Trinity speaking examiner, so I have this, I don't know, it's a privileged position in going into schools that adopt a CLIL approach and examining the younger learners or the high levels, but it's the younger learners that's so much fun. And you get this little 5-6-year-old walking very confidently into his English language and exam, you know, to talk to some grey-haired fuddy-duddy that, you know, only speaks English apparently. He's never met, or she's never met before, and sits down and says, hello. And I say, hello. And then starts chatting away. Do you know I like fish? Oh, well, okay, right. And that's it. He's off. And you think, my goodness, how comfortable are these people? You know, little people, but these people chatting away in the, you know, what I would have thought would be difficult for them. And no. And then after the end of the exam, oh, thank you very much. Have a nice day. And you're just like, wow,
Yes.
you're 6 years old. What are you doing? My goodness. It's like, wow, it's brilliant. You know, and you with that experience, you automatically see the future, you know, there. And you think, wow, where is this guy going to end up? You know, and great things. So I think, you know, wonderful benefits to using CLIL, which I've observed as well. And yeah, those basic interpersonal skills. Then obviously we have to look at the cognitive academic language proficiency as well, and other researchers as well as Cummings have shown takes at least 5 years to achieve fully that sort of language proficiency, kind of higher order thinking, isn't it? Justifying opinions, interpreting evidence, hypotheses making as well. So let's have a look at some examples. We're going to focus on both, let's flick back, BICS, so basic interpersonal skills, as well as cognitive academic language proficiency. Here's an example of something taken from Essential Science, as well as another course book, Join Us for English. How would you say that, 4Cs, BICS or CALP is reflected here in these activities? Let's look at the first one on the left, the plant or animal option there. A couple of keywords. I'm just going to turn off my camera and let you think about that.
Either it's plant or an animal.
Yeah.
What was the question again?
Good. How are these activities reflecting like the 4Cs we mentioned, the higher order thinking, the sort of social aspect of it?
The first one would be the content, because the content is a science content.
Good. Yep.
It does have some higher order thinking involved. They have to
Doesn't
think.
it? Yeah. So classification is one of those hots, isn't it? Yeah.
Not sure about the second one. That is any higher order thing. It's just listening and identifying meaning and image and sound.
So this is certainly more, it's more an ELT type activity, isn't it?
I would agree with you.
So that's where the language comes in. Maybe it's a precursor to something else. Yeah.
Could be
Is culture an aspect to it, because the foods are all quite Western and Americanized foods?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we can all say what those fries look like, don't we? Really, where they might come from. But no, definitely, yeah. Yeah. What about this idea then? And I think that's again cultural, possibly. What is a healthy sandwich in in your country?
And do people eat sandwiches anyway in all countries?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, not in Spain. Exactly.
Not in Saudi Arabia. I don't think those are, unless the children have become so westernized that that's what they want to eat. Big Macs and stuff.
That's a good point, yeah.
So there is a kind of linguistic imperialism involved, I think.
Cultural imperialism certainly happening here, I would say, definitely. Yeah, that concept of the sandwich, the types of foods, it's happening, isn't it? Okay, how about here, something a little bit different?
I like the idea that it's converting, one type of information into another. I mean, that's a sort of very typical, I guess CLIL that has the idea of transferring information from one source to another. So that's quite nice. On the left, but on the right, put all the verbs in the passive just was very much like a typical
ELT.
ELT, which we know isn't always necessarily a useful exercise.
I mean,
It's
it
kind
is
of
useful as a noticing activity, but there's no justification why it's being done.
yeah,
Why the
you know,
passive is a good choice.
mhm.
Yeah.
So the focus certainly is moving away from meaning and content, and certainly towards just pure language, as you say, ELT. What sort of higher order skill is
I mean,
activity
it's what I was touching on with the graph into a bar
one?
chart, and how it's you have to analyze it and
Good.
then
Yeah.
transfer it.
It's information transfer.
Yeah.
So,
And
so
understanding diagrammatic displays, which is possibly, I think it's an IELTS skill, isn't it? Also, it's checked for entry into higher education institutions.
Yep. Yeah. Good. Okay. One quick recap. So one of the I mean, one of the qualifications you might be exploring, if you wanted to delve a bit deeper into CLIL, is the Cambridge TKT certificate. They offer an option to take a certificate exam in CLIL. Here are a few questions from past papers. Shout out what you think might be the answers, and don't worry if it's as I say, don't worry, it's not an exam.
They're not brilliant questions.
No. I mean, I think they would like to think that it's A for the first one. But
Sorry. Yeah.
I think the result would be closer to B. That you would end up thinking in English. Hopefully, eventually.
Yeah.
even in number 2 as well, I mean, aims to develop skills. I think that's its aim, but again, whether or not it succeeds in doing that is debatable.
Good. I think, yeah. Well, you're right. Definitely, it's like your lesson aims as well, isn't it? Whether we get there or not, but at least with the intentions there, how it's enacted is something different.
I mean, cognitive development, I would imagine, because we talked about the CALP 3C.
Yeah, seems to be that, doesn't it? Yeah, good, cool. Okay, a few more.
B, because it's conversational language.
Yeah.
And then CALP is that's B, kind of.
Is it the Cambridge exam?
Yep. Yeah, the TKT. I've done this actually. This exam. It's 80 questions, all multiple choice.
Incredible.
Yes, how to kill you softly with multiple choice. However, I think it's more as a very good excuse to say, right, I'm going to read up about this before I sit the exam, and therefore, a good excuse to learn a little bit more.
And obviously C for 6.
Yes, I think so.
Excellent. Look at that, 100% in.
You passed.
Yeah, already.
Give me the certificate.
Yeah.
in the mail.
Please.
So let's have a look at how we might specifically kind of include language and incorporate that into a CLIL approach. Let's have a look at an example here. So especially focusing, if need to sort of make sort of blend the language with the content as well. And this is something very often you'll see in general ELT course books. You know, I don't know, if the syllabus, or you know, says, right, this unit needs to talk about the future, what do you think the reading text is going to be about?
Space.
Say that again, Daniela. Sorry.
Space and
Space science. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
science and robotics.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. How AI is going to overtake the world and blah blah blah. Yeah. Exactly. So you know, it's kind of pretty logical as well, isn't it? But okay, if we're talking about music, we're just changing the content of the sentence for a music type sentence. I say just, I mean, have to think carefully, but also so that the language is natural as well. Sometimes we can be guilty of forcing a grammatical structure into a context, and it just doesn't really sound very natural, you know. So we need to be careful about that, as well as the function of that particular grammar point in that context. So that's one way, you know, typical example with language. And again, with functions, let's have a look at some examples here. So again, these don't necessarily need to be explicitly taught. For example, in section 3, you might not say, let's have a look, you know, let's analyze conditionals. You might just say, listen, this is the typical structure you might want to do when you're doing this. So again, it depends on whether we're going, you know, sort of hard or kind of soft CLIL.
That's
So
quite a nice approach, actually, in looking at academic work and how it's using language to express different relationships of ideas.
Yep. Yeah.
And I was wondering to what degree EAP or business English or
It's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, it's very, very
integrates with CLIL or kind of overlaps with CLIL.
I agree. That's exactly, yeah, business English. You know that when you're teaching that, it'd be weird to analyze grammar in a big business English.
So you're teaching presentation skills, for example, that's
Exactly.
content, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
It's not
Or
just
negotiating.
language.
It's that
Yeah.
functional language, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so very similar, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look quickly at the purpose of using translation, maybe. And we've touched upon that today already. Here are 3 different examples here. Have a look at number 1. What might be the reason for using the first language here? With nature.
It's because it sounds, you know, the roca, I'm guessing, sounds like rock, so it was easier to help develop in their brain connection.
Definitely. Yeah, good point. Notice you got Nacho saying, me, a few times. He's eager to answer, isn't he? Did he get the answer right?
In terms of meaning, yes.
Yeah, brilliant, yeah. And should that be the focus? Well, in CLIL, yeah. I mean, great. Well done, Nacho. Okay, now the teacher realizes possibly either A, Nacho was a bit too eager and just blurted it out in Spanish, or B, he doesn't know the word. Maybe there's somebody else in the class who doesn't. Okay, well, now, good excuse to, it's a good learning opportunity here. lovely. Capitalize it on it. This is when they're ready to learn. Visual, and then here's the word. How about number 2? Again, purpose of using the L1 there.
Checking.
Yes, the idea is to understand the concept, not necessarily say it in English first. Because if they don't understand it in their mother tongue firstly, how can they express it in English?
Exactly. Yeah, good. Yeah.
The idea of telling their friends as well to make them more comfortable doing it. So it's you're not answering in front of the class, you're more relaxed, you can do it in the way that suits you.
Good. Yeah. It's that, I think, perhaps touch upon Stephen Krashen's affective filter there, isn't it? Lowering the stress, getting them ready to.
Austin, do you use any of these approaches? Because you do have ESOL learners who some of them have similar languages. Do you use that as a technique for them to help one another? And to what
Yes, absolutely, especially in community settings, because we're not able to stream the levels there, so we have a broader range of levels. So there are people who were there, and we try to work to do it in an efficient way. Because what we want them to do is often try to do it shortly. Sometimes they go on and on and on and on in the language, and I say, but that was just a small question. So it's trying to use it sparingly, and I suppose what I'm aiming for them to do is as they move up through the levels, for them to use it less and less. I expect to see it more lower and then it to gradually pull back.
Cool. Cool. How about the last one, number 3? What might be the reason there for using L1?
I mean, I think because we're going by this stage of development of the brain that we are now more cognitively should have developed and be able to process the higher order, and they should be comfortable that the kind of L1 translation is just to reduce cognitive load demand.
Yeah.
Could be, very abstract terminology that's maybe a little bit difficult, and it just kind of makes it easier to, if you've got 13 objects that are in English, well,
Definitely. There's a lot to take on, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's also a time factor, I guess. Teachers have, 60 or 90 minutes to get through what they need to.
Sure.
It's like, how do I stop, draw a picture, CCQs and all the rest of it for each of these? Okay, cool. So we have, and Daniel mentioned it as well, looked at the sort of higher order thinking skills and the lower order thinking skills, from Blue's taxonomy then. And we can see, we've seen how some of the activities from the course books, allow for analyzing, evaluating, creating, instead of just purely memorization. Let's compare what that might look like. So if we think of the cognitive skills, then what type of classroom activity might you get students to do? And then an example taken from literacy, music, and history.
These are good for lesson aims as well.
So let's have a look at how this might be applied in a course book or an activity. What would you say are the cognitive skills being developed here? Look at the task.
Identifying. Okay. It's quite easy.
There's categorization, maybe in C as well. Yeah, certainly creating.
Yeah.
Cool. So,
but it's nice that you presented it like this I mean, that in terms of teachers identifying the aims of activities, I quite like that. Because very often teachers think, yeah, well, I'm going to list 6 different things and that's it. So there's a depth of processing that this demonstrates that you can use in CLIL, but you can also use it in language instruction, right? That looks also like a good language activity.
Definitely, yeah, yeah. And I think we possibly need to move away from some of the more superficial ELT old school activities and try to adapt and adopt, yeah, sort of the higher order thinking skills a little bit more, allow students to engage at slightly different levels. So Vygotsky had a bit of an impact on CLIL. So we'll have a look here at, well, I mean, we've mentioned culture, we've mentioned language, methodologies, approaches as well. Rather a complex diagram, but we can see how it's all kind of connected. And if we think about how it's related to everything we've spoken about as regards CLIL, it's kind of all there, isn't it?
How the experience and the tools shape language and thinking, right?
So it's you know, it's a full social cultural sort of theory there, or approach here, of cognitive development, isn't it? So we can see that there's a need for scaffolding in CLIL. There is that zone of proximal development, just kind of stretching students, certainly assisted learning, and lots of reflection, collaboration, so maybe self-talk happening there as well, especially through a task. And students building knowledge by collaboration and interaction as well. So that's a quick summary of what I've just said there. There's also somebody else kind of more recently, you may recognize the face, Carol Reed and her C wheel. If you have a look at the wheel there with obviously the child at the center.
It's pretty.
I think it's lovely to see the different ideas: creativity, curiosity, challenge, you know, connections with others as well as between the two languages.
And how does it work?
Well, it's basically making sure when you're putting together an activity or a course book or, you know, whole projects, that it includes what you're doing. It includes basically the wheel. It includes as much of this as possible, if not all. It should, but obviously so you influenced by all the other elements as well. So taking all these into account as you're doing it. So it's almost, you could ask it, you could suggest that, you know, a very useful checklist when putting together either a whole syllabus or, you know, a new approach for your educational ministry or for your school or for your individual lesson. Okay, so let's come back a little bit to, we mentioned TKTL CLIL. So just to see what you've taken away. Here are a few other questions I'm sure you'll be able to do and pass with flying colours. What do we think? A, B, or C?
Should be located. don't know if I would pass that CLIL test.
One is B, maybe.
I would say locating that specific information, isn't it? You know, it's yeah, reading for specific information, but yeah.
Let mute myself.
Would we say number 2 is
Cooperating.
yeah, cooperate. It's working together, isn't it? Yeah, good.
I think that's more some note taking.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, again, a useful skill. Now, do these activities reflect things that you've done before in your classes, your English language teaching classes? Yeah, they're very similar, aren't they? Okay, but they might be specific to a specific context. So therefore, notice how that geography or history or maths or music teacher needs ELT techniques and approaches in order to be able to help them. And perhaps they haven't had that training. And that's unfortunate, should we say. Yeah. Okay. Assessment. Obviously, it's, you know, especially in state schools, assessment is a big thing. We need to give them that final number, don't we? In certain contexts. How might we assess in CLIL? I don't know, Summer, how, I mean, you were mentioning it, and Sophia, you've done it as well. What sort of assessment have you used?
We use the normal assessment, like the formative and summative, if this is what you mean.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So there would be something at the end of the course?
At the end of the course, we have the summative assessment.
Yeah.
It's the big one.
It's the big one. Yeah,
And
I was gonna say.
at the beginning of each year, we have the diagnostic tests usually.
Cool.
So that would be your progress test, would be the formative assessment or diagnostic or whatever. Yeah.
Sophia, how about yourself?
Well, in the school that I used to be, it was just in nursery age, so there was no assessment in that sense. Yes.
Formal assessment, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. But
there's also observation of children, isn't there, by their teachers? So in some ways, teachers do observe their pupils.
Yes. Mostly on skills and behavior, not so much on
content knowledge.
Exactly, yes.
So kind of a performance assessment. How are they performing over the course? How are they doing? Yeah.
And development, of course, during the year and then at the end of the year. So it was usually twice a year, like in Christmas, the first one to see the development until then, and then at the end of the year, a more holistic one.
Did they do any projects? Any actual crafts work that was...
Of course, yes. Class projects and individual ones that were in their folders.
Interesting. Okay. Cool. So lots of ways, and I think some of them we've mentioned here. Do you personally have any preference? I know I certainly do. If, as a student, try to think of yourself, you know, from a student perspective when you were at school or even now. What do you like?
I prefer things like portfolios because they reflect everything I've done over the year rather than what I did on one day, maybe in an exam.
One day in 2.5 hours or 2 hours, yeah, and after not sleeping very well and maybe having to miss breakfast because you were going to miss the bus, and yeah, exactly, yeah. You can tell where I'm going as well, can't you, really, with that comment? I certainly, yeah, don't like that. I've got 3 hours to demonstrate everything I know and have learned in the last 9 to 10 months. Rubbish. Or 2 years or 3 years or something. My goodness.
And self-assessment can also sometimes be more effective.
Yes, but it's for upper,
Yes.
like high
Do you
school
think so?
or
Well,
adults, maybe.
it could be adopted in younger learners too, like with can statements, what
Yeah.
you feel you can do or you can't do. And sometimes you will see that learners might be harder on themselves
Very much so.
and very honest. Like, I was not very good at that.
It's a good point.
It's very interesting because I had one Delta candidate who assessed her learners. She did a YL project, a Module 3 project on teaching young learners. And that's how she diagnostically and post-course assessed her learners. She got them to draw very big posters, and they drew what they can do and what they couldn't do, which is lovely. I have that somewhere. I'll share it with the class here.
That's a great idea, isn't it?
And
Wow.
it was so inspired because she was looking for ways of, these were preschool children, obviously, and it worked so well. And it was self and peer. They collaborated together in groups.
Brilliant.
So it was a combination of self and peer, including lots of collaborative talk and decision making, what we can do, what we can't do.
Yeah. And this is a great idea. I agree with Sophia how students can be overly critical on themselves, overly harsh, can't they? Yeah. No, that's a good point. So lots of options.
So if people want to do a project on CLIL, would those be options for diagnostic assessment? Because a teacher who does CLIL needs to diagnose the learner's needs, right? So what do you think they should use, or what do you think might be a good idea? Not just Bob, but everyone. What do you think would you be able to use? You want to use some CLIL, some topic focused teaching or subject teaching in your curriculum?
The question, sorry, Marisa, I didn't quite catch.
Yeah, should I have a rising intonation?
Please.
Yeah, I was just wondering. Yeah, I mean, I'm a learner here. I'm not a tutor. I'm learning from Paul as well. I was just wondering which would be a good way of identifying CLIL needs. In designing a curriculum focusing on CLIL, how would you diagnose the learner's needs? And it's a question which is very interesting and to what extent you can use formal testing or other means.
We can have a survey, for example, for the learners, so we can know what motivates them, what they are looking for, what do they really want to help us.
But there's also a curriculum to cover, and there are two curricula.
Yes.
There's the linguistic curriculum and the subject curriculum. They've got to do, for example, science, ABCD stuff. And then on the other side, there's the language. How do we do that? What do you think? I don't know the answer. Don't look at
Well,
me. I'm just
there's
putting in.
certainly something I prefer to do. My lessons is maybe a test, diagnostic test, teach test approach, and maybe if it's in a CLIL context, getting to do some, a small little project together, see what comes out, and then go, yeah, right. Yes, they've got this, they know how to do that, they can collaborate together, but they need the vocabulary. Right, let's do the teach part, and then go, right, another project, similar.
So let's say if it's a cookery, the subject is cooking. You get, yeah, it is. I mean, it's part of the
Yeah, no,
curriculum
it's
in some
great.
schools. Maybe you could get them to stage a TV show where they're preparing something in English, and that's your diagnostic test. Would that work? I'm just asking.
That type of project, I would say, for the initial diagnostic test might be quite prolonged time-wise, but it's something similar, isn't it? It might be, well, yeah,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, and maybe another topic. I don't know. Give them
yeah.
bits to do an experiment for
Mm.
science.
Or yeah, just spontaneously,
For
very quickly, tell us your
example,
favorite
which
dish.
tastes better, Coke or Pepsi?
Oh,
That's a
wow,
very
right.
simple experiment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Taste their experimental design abilities. I don't know, but I think you kind of made me think about options for diagnostic testing. That it doesn't have to be formal.
No, yeah. It could be more practical as well, can't it? And especially with that CLIL approach, collaborative, project-based,
Yeah,
even.
yeah.
Yeah. Good point.
There's the test that you would need to do for that would be quite interesting. How you assessed Coke versus Pepsi, because Pepsi would always win on a short taste test because it's sweeter. But when people drank a whole can, Coke would win. So it depends on how you design the assessment.
Interesting.
Well, I think that involves also teaching people experimental design, which is a subject, right? So you would need to set up how to make a working hypothesis, how to make a number of observations. So they should have cups of this and that, and have people test them blind.
Yeah.
I mean, and then record the results and make, have a conclusion. Yeah.
I think one of the conclusions might be lots of bloated students.
Okay.
But excellent, brilliant. Guys, any questions?
Are any of you considering CLIL as a topic focus for your Module 3 or incorporating in your curriculum in some way?
May I ask a question? I apologize if it's a silly question.
Don't
With CLIL, is it only defined by being bilingual? Because lots of aspects of CLIL I've done when I taught at the language school and I do in community, but I only teach in one language.
No, that would be the very hard CLIL, wouldn't it? Because you're teaching a multilingual, aren't you? A multilingual sort of group of students.
But you might be using individual learners as assistants to help you possibly translate, or they might be allowed to use a translator.
Exactly.
App. That's your teaching assistant in the L2, in their languages, in their L1s. Yeah. So you're doing some CLIL if you're teaching them how to behave in the world, in the new culture, in some ways.
So I think it could be a strong idea for me because I do have an interest in trying to design a community course, because sometimes we're only with people for 2 or 3 months. So what would be the best thing? And these are for mostly people who've been in the UK a shorter time. So what would be the most efficient lesson that would give them the basic skills that they need to get by or to progress?
I'm not sure how far that would be CLIL or ESP. Sorry, ESP, English. Well, possibly for specific purposes, but certainly ESOL. It's just what I mean. It's survival English in an English-speaking country.
But if I could add something, there is no restriction into combining into your main specialism, which might be ESOL, to say that you've drawn from CLIL and that you're looking at some of the processes and concepts involved in how you could go about designing your curriculum, involving cognitive and so on, and communication skills and that. The only problem with that is that you would, in your review of the literature, you would need to cover both fronts, to say something about both. But that's doable. People do it when they say, I'm going to teach ESP, but I'm going to do it on one-to-one. So they have to talk both about one-to-one and ESP, yeah, in their review.
Good point.
So should we have a little break now and perhaps come back for the ELT management in a few minutes?
Yeah, what time should we
Well,
come
we've
back?
gone past the time. We've got a little bit carried away. So maybe 5 minutes and then we can start on the ELT management, yeah?
Yep, fine by
Okay.
me. Yeah, quarter past. Super. Oh, 20. No, we said 45, yeah.
See you then.
See you then.
Okay. See you in a mo.
Thank you, pal.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm just going to go off screen for a bit.
Yeah.
That was very interesting.
Thank you.
It was a good discussion. See you in a minute.
Hey, welcome back, everybody.
Hello.
I'm going to try standing up for this one, although my legs are a little bit sore at the moment.
From sitting down for so long.
Yeah, no, my training this morning.
Really?
Yeah, I have
I don't
another
know what
marathon.
happened.
Another marathon on the books for I don't know, it's mid-September, 15th September, is it? Sorry, February. Yeah, 15th of
Sorry.
February. No problem.
Come in. My cat is feeling neglected.
Hey. Austin, I'm very impressed at how long you can stay standing. Don't know about you. I get lower back pain for too long.
Yeah.
I don't know about what you're using right now. You can see me wobbling around is because I'm standing on a balance board. Hopefully that will help with sort of lower back problems, although it doesn't solve the issue of just old age. Unfortunately, there's no solution for that one.
I just stand on the floor.
Yeah. Cool. So let's move on to ELT management. Is anybody or has anybody been in a role of management in any aspect? It doesn't have to be ELT.
This year, I promoted to a new position. It's coordination for speaking and drama.
Congratulations. Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. So does that mean you are responsible for maybe a group of teachers?
A small team.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful.
Yes.
Cool. Were they previously your colleagues?
Yes.
Okay, so you've gone from being one of them to now telling them what to do type thing.
Yes, but I'm the oldest amongst them. Yes.
So what does that mean? That gives you kind of more authority? Or not?
No, I mean in years and experience.
Okay, so they kind of accepted that was a natural transition. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I've managed very small teams, usually of volunteers or maybe teaching assistants.
Oh, excellent. Okay, cool. Danielle, Sophia?
Well, I used to work in a school, as I told you, in foreign language school for a lot of years. And from last year, I am a freelancer. So in that sense, I work. I take my own decisions anyway for my learners. So
Cool.
that's what is different for
Right.
me.
So you're your own boss.
Yes.
You have to ask you if you can have holidays or can I take the afternoon off, please? No, you can't. I have to. Oh, okay, right. Okay. Danielle, how about yourself?
Yeah, I don't think I have any managerial experience, come to think of it. I mean, I've been in situations similar to Sophia where, I had to be my own boss for before English. I studied music, and so a lot of that was freelance work as well. So, familiar with the idea, but transfer
the concept of being a business manager. Yeah, cool. But I think as well, I don't know about you, but for years and years while I've been teaching, I've always been thinking, how are my skills? How are the skills that I'm learning? Just I say just to teach. Wow, it's a bit transferable. And I've been meaning to I haven't yet write a taxonomy of all these presentation skills. Talking in public, convincing. So we're great salespeople, because how often do you have to sell a boring grammar point to a group of students? Yeah, present perfect simple is fun, and they're all phrasal verbs are great. Yeah, right. Yeah, of course they are. So
So true. So true.
Yeah. And then there's classroom management, management of groups. Oh, we've always got the one little difficult, cheeky little monkey here, and we got the bouncy one in the corner, and you know, pretty similar.
Performer as well. We are
And say that again.
performers
But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
in a
yeah.
sense, especially with young learners. You have to perform. No
Perform.
matter how you feel, if you have a headache or, a bad day or anything else.
That's true. Yeah. I've found it's a great way to forget that you're ill. Because it's not about me. I'm the least important person
And
in the
it
room.
actually works.
Until you get
You
home and
actually
collapse on the
forget.
sofa. Yeah. 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 I guess coffee helps as well. But yeah, you're right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, definitely.
So we're guides, we're role models. I'm sure, Sophia, with your younger learners,
Yes, of
you'll
course.
Acrobats as well.
acrobats.
Yeah.
Why do you say the acrobat? Do you think what is it?
Because with younger learners, especially at the beginning of the year, they have bad moods and they don't want to come to school. You have to really make the class so much fun so they can accept and stay and love and motivate them, and yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
And they
What
have to love you, because I feel if they don't love the teacher will struggle later on. So I take this as main key for start any session, any lesson. They have to love the teacher, so they go on and love the English class, attend the classes.
I totally agree with that.
Interesting.
So I have to make them laugh. So I have to like make silly faces at the
Make them
beginning.
laugh. That's interesting. Yeah. Funny enough, I don't know. It's an unwritten rule that I have in each of my lessons, which is I need to make everybody laugh at least once in my lesson.
Yes.
That's nice.
Yeah. Now, would you say all those different roles that we've mentioned, and there are many more, would be the same as being a manager?
No.
You mean your manager doesn't walk in and make you laugh at least once a day?
No, but I think it's more serious.
Why? You have to
I
motivate
don't
your
know.
team, don't you?
Here. I do.
I'm sure you do, exactly. But I'm thinking, think about the managers that you've had. Have they come in motivating you?
No.
Not all of them. Yeah, but just like teachers, we all have the ones that we look up to and the ones we don't really look up to. Yeah. Acrobats, yeah, okay. Role models. Have you had managers that were good role models and maybe not
Yes.
good role
Yes.
models?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. You said friends. Do you think managers should be in friends of the employees? I don't like using that term, but the people below.
Interestingly, one of my lecturers at university, he took the approach that actually his job was to be very serious from the beginning, that his students should actually fear him from day one, to lay down the law, because it's easier to do that at the start, so they respect you, and then over time, if you open up and become more funny and have a joke with them, they don't see it coming, and they'll actually be more opening. Whereas if you do the flip reverse and you start off being all open and light, and as soon as you need to say no,
impossible to bring them back. As group management, group dynamics, classroom management, I would completely agree with that from my own experience, but not with the fear. I wouldn't include the word fear.
Extreme.
Yeah. But healthy respect, and that, this person's in charge. And I don't know about you, but as regards management as well as teaching, I think as soon as I walk into a new class, I think the first 35 seconds of what happens sets the scene. You walk in, and I'm going to use a Spanish context. I've got my 10-year-old little Nacho throwing a piece of paper at Maria on the other side of the room, and somebody else is singing and dancing in the middle of the room, and I walk in, do I just sheep, I can't even say the word now, sheepishly, my goodness, tongue twister, walk to the front of the room, quietly put my books down and sort of ask them nicely, could you all sit down, please? Right, I've lost them, haven't I? There's no way I'm going to regain control. But if I walk in and Danielle, I guess there's a touch of fear, respect if I walk in and go, what's going on here? Big surprise, and Nacho goes, all right, let's go quick, need to sit down. And so the dancer,
First impression, last impression.
First impressions, that's right. Yeah, it's kind of, oh, there's a teacher in the room. Okay. Yeah. And then, as you say, Danielle, you can lighten up. Should that be with management as well? Don't know. What do you think?
In a sense of assistance and advice, but not crossing the boundary of being a friend, I think.
But would you think it's okay to be for a teacher to be a friend?
Again, not crossing. There is a specific line that
isn't there?
needs to be,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
That, okay, I can hear you, you can talk to me about your problems, and I can give you advice, another point of view that you haven't thought of maybe, but not going too personal, for example, or
let's meet up at the weekend and have a party.
Exactly, yeah.
Don't meet up at the weekend and have a party.
Yes.
Yeah, because then they've got photographs of you on social media and they'll
messy, very messy.
I think about it sometimes with like qualities, and I think about it with students as well, and that I'm not friends with students, but I have some of the qualities of a friend, and that I'll support you and I'll be there for you. And I think you're a little bit of everything, a bit like Samasa. Sometimes you are like a parent. I'm not your parent though, but I do, probably act out of the same care and love that a parent might have. So you can have some aspects of it, but it is difficult to define a line and when you've moved beyond it sometimes.
That's right. I think I've fallen into the trap of trying to be, students' friends, and then realizing, as Danielle said, when you have to then go and draw a line, really, how does that work? It doesn't.
Yeah, because I think when emotions come to the surface, you cannot be real fair, even if you don't mean to.
Yeah, no. So we can see there are lots of overlaps between being a teacher, being a manager. There are, so when we're talking about going into management, there's something that as I was moving into academic management, I thought, well, what do I base this on? How do I get these skills? And it was somebody who said, well, what do you do in class? You're in charge of a group of people, aren't you? You have to tell them what to do. You have to deal with relationships. You have to organize those group dynamics. You have to get them motivated and do things. Well, how do you do that in class? Can you not use those skills? Well, right, okay. But maybe there's there are a few other things to take into account as well. So for the Delta, let's focus specifically. Sorry, let me resize this for you. Specifically on the Delta Module 3. So we know that you could go down the road for that Delta Module 3 assignment for the general sort of area. You could focus on CLIL or Young Learners exam classes, or you have the option of exploring ELT management. There aren't many people who take that option, which is why by taking it, you have an added advantage, I would say, in the market. Coming away with an ELT management knowledge, which you certainly will come away with having done this assignment, certainly sets you up for taking that next step into ELT management, if that's what you're thinking, but certainly seeing the ELT world from a very different perspective that's not teaching, and shifting a mindset is very important as well. Yeah. This is also useful for anybody thinking of, like Sophia was saying, well, she's kind of freelance, I'm going it alone, and well, the things that you learn from this assignment will give you a perspective, a mindset change to help you set up your own business if that's what you're thinking as well. It gives you the fundamental basis of that. Remember, it's at kind of, you know, at master's level, so there's a lot of reading in management in different aspects, and we'll have a look at some of those as well. Okay, so let's think, what would you do in the ELT M or management module? Well, you're going to research one specific specialism, just like I said, you know, exam English, or but this is related to management. We'll have a look at those in a minute. Then you'll do, let's call it a needs analysis, but in management terms, it's called a situation analysis. Okay, and there are different tools that you can use for this. You might be aware of a SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. That's one possible way, but there are others that you need to explore. PESTLE, there's a 4Cs analysis for marketing, for example. Okay, then you would, using that situational analysis, you would identify an issue maybe with the organization. Now, the key thing that you need to keep in mind for this assignment is that you do need access to a language teaching organization, and you may need access to a certain level of sensitive information as well, depending on what area you're focusing on. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail, how you can get that as well. Okay, so identify a possible issue or an opportunity via your situation analysis, and then design a proposed change. You would have to also come up with an implementation plan, and for that you would touch upon project management theory. So you'd need to be reading up and looking at project management. You might have to design a Gantt chart to plan the timing of that. And you would present the project in 4,500 words, same as the other, you know, sort of module 3 assignment. So we mentioned the specialism. There are different specialisms you could focus on. Okay, one of them is academic management. These are some of the areas you might focus on. Be careful when we are talking about teachers, that wouldn't include the recruitment of teachers. What area might recruitment come under? If you've ever worked in a bigger organization, when you apply, who asks you for your bank details and your CV and your
human resources?
Exactly. Yeah. So recruitment teachers wouldn't come under human resources. What about professional development of teachers? Academic management or not?
Yes, I think CPD would be part of it. It's one of the things I do with my manager, the CPD.
Okay, but isn't human resource department in charge of the professional development of everybody in the organization?
Maybe.
Yes, they are. That's their job. Yeah. Does it come down to the academic manager to do the professional development program inset training for their teachers? Yes. But technically, who's responsible for that? Not them. Does it normally, especially in smaller organizations, come down to the academic manager to propose the program for the teacher development? Yes. Do they then, or should they, go to the HR department and convince them that this is the best way to go? Yeah. But HR, it's up to them, because HR need to then think, well, how do we measure that this has been effective? Yeah. Now, a lot of organizations do just dump it on So teacher development is dumped on the director of studies. And it's kind of, and some organizations almost give the director of studies or academic manager free rein, which is, okay, you train up the teachers, off your pop, do what you think they need. All right, great, fine, brilliant. But technically for this assignment, it comes under HR. It's any form of training. Yeah. Now, if you're thinking of professional development, don't only think of teachers. All staff in the organization need to be developed or they need to be trained in some way. So that could include admin staff, could be marketing, it could be, you know, depending on the size of your organization. Sophia being self-employed, she is the marketing department, the finance department, so so her meetings, I mean, there must be lots of people in the room, but she only needs one chair really when she's planning. So notice what comes under human resource management here. So for example, if we look at performance management, observations, if they're developmental observations, something that an academic manager often does, gives feedback, technically that's human resources. That comes under human resource department. So does the academic manager take on that role? Yes. Why? Because maybe the HR department is not qualified to do that. So they outsource it and give them a certain amount of sort of freedom or not. Yeah. We've seen motivation as well. So we've seen academic management as one of the areas, human resource management as another. We've also got customer service. So the CRM, another acronym, is sort of customer relation management tool. These can be very, very complex software programs that include all the data of clients and customers, as well as internal clients and customers. So internal clients and customers would be regarded as, you know, staff or not. Maybe they don't even exist. Maybe it's just an Excel sheet with a list of students' names on it. Okay, so lots of that. And marketing is the fourth one. And the 4 Ps of marketing, as you can see here. Okay, so basically you know, your assignment would need to come under one of those headings: academic management, human resources, customer service, or marketing. Could they have a kind of a sub focus? Yes, definitely, just like Marissa was saying about your main focus. And then now naturally within any organism, which I would say an organization is a living organic thing, there are overlaps, and we've just seen some of them as an example with academic management and human resource management. But marketing, for example, overlaps with academic management. You know, the marketing department need to know what it is that they're selling and how best to sell it from an academic perspective, maybe. And it's also going to be related to customer service in some way, because it has an effect on it. So if you're thinking about this this type of assignment, the first port of call would be a discussion, but a bit of a brainstorm. Tell us about your situation. Tell us what you're thinking about. What do you think the strengths are of the organization? What do you think might be an issue? Now, we're not getting into situational analysis at that time. You're just telling me about the organization and maybe areas of interest. And this would be a good moment never to come to this assignment with a preconceived idea of what you want to analyze, because the situation analysis might show you evidence that that is not the key issue here. Okay. So anyway, before we get into further details, let's have a look at the format of the assignment. divided into 5 different parts. The word length, as you can see, has a sort of 10% leeway, but the final word count cannot be more than 4,500 words. Cambridge are very strict on that. Okay, so you can see the part 1 is where really you're going to have to do a lot of, or before that, a lot of the background reading. See the theory. You wouldn't mention in part 1, for example, your specific language teaching organization. It's not about that. It's about the general concept, the general theory first. Hello, welcome. We have TT joining us. Welcome to the ELT management. So we can see in part 2, we have situation analysis. In my experience, it's probably best to begin with that section. That's the springboard for everything else, because that's how you collect the data, what data you need to collect, and therefore are you going to be able to have access to that data. Then the analysis of the data shows where the strengths are, but certainly where the problems are and what you're going to have to focus on. One example was, I don't know, I think last year somebody did an assignment on, they wanted to focus on professional development of the teachers and course design. And I said, well, they're two obviously very different areas. Her situation analysis showed that the impact of the course design was actually having a negative impact on the students, and therefore her research, her situation analysis showed, that's the key area to focus on, not what I thought it was or what I maybe had more interest in looking into. So it was like, right, let's refocus a little bit. Okay, so what are the aims of the ELT module? Well, these are the aims. I'll let you read them. I think the key here, especially in part 1 of the assignment, is the critical awareness. So not, do your background reading, but don't take things at face value. Obviously, it's a master's level. You should be analyzing it critically and say, okay, that's a great model or a great idea of how to do things, but, and that's what we need to see in part 1, ideally, and certainly throughout. So maybe the way you collect the data, you've collected it in a particular way, but then you need to critically analyze why you've collected it in that way and its pros and cons. Maybe you've only focused on a small area of the company. Maybe you've only interviewed the teachers, and the teachers in the last 2 years, not in the last 6 years. Could that be a handicap? Well, okay, there's something to keep in mind. It's very practical as well, as you I'm sure are aware of, the whole Delta courses. It's identifying, based in theory, identifying issues and then applying a solution in a real world context. And that's where my comment of you do need access to a language teaching organization to do this. So we'll get, as I say, talk about that in a bit more detail later. As you can see, sort of the change management, focusing on implementing change. So you'll need to not just read about project management, but also change management. Do you remember we mentioned how teachers are experts at selling the present perfect simple to students? Right, well, bring that up a hierarchy in an organization, and now you have to sell to your teachers that they are now going to teach everything via CLIL methodology. And they're not going to, all those grammar lessons that they've prepared before, they're useless. Not going to use them anymore. We're going to teach science in English from now on. How do you sell that? How do you implement that change? And there's background reading theory related to that. And obviously, basically, you're going to end up with an assignment that it's a project that you could hand over to one of your managers or the school owner and say, this is going to improve your school. And this is exactly how to do it. There's a timeline. This is how you're going to do it. These are all the stakeholders involved in it. And they will love you forever because you'll pitch it in such a way that it will mean benefits for the school. And the best way to do that is show the economic benefits. So, obviously, start as soon as possible. So what do you need to do to start? Well, choose your specialism out of these four. However, that would begin with an initial conversation, possibly with myself, where we kind of tell us what you're interested in. Tell us about your organization. Have you got access to this? Yes, right. Okay. So, what are your initial feelings about how the school could be better? What I will use is a kind of a coaching approach to this. So I'll sort of lots of eliciting, okay, lots of questions, get you thinking. I'll be challenging some of your initial concepts as well. One of the difficulties I found from moving from teacher to manager was changing my mindset, seeing things in a very different light. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like that change because I felt at times that there was lots of tension between the sales department and, and the academic excellence. Excuse me. And I think this is very, very, very common. So I didn't want to reduce the academic excellence, but realized at the same time that an excellent, academically or pedagogically excellent course is not economically viable. When I say excellent, I'm not saying that no courses are excellent. What I'm saying is my ambition is to be up here with this course and provide these resources and do this with students or teachers, and the sales department saying, well, we haven't got money for that. And it's just going to be too expensive. So how would we market that? We can't. So can we find another solution? And my academic kind of focus or brain would say, no, don't want to, until I realized, listen, I'm going to have to. Yeah. So we said it's aimed to develop your knowledge and competence in a specific specialism. You're going to delve into that specialism in a very interesting way. Look at methods of situation analysis, which you can therefore use these tools, with lots of other contexts as well. Design that proposal and how you're going to implement it, both from a project management perspective as well as a change management perspective. Okay, so if we break that down, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this clearly, but this is what the different parts of that assignment might look like. Are you able to read that okay? Is it clear enough? Yeah.
Yes.
I'll let you just have a look at that. Let me know if there are any questions from anything you see here. Sorry about that. I realized I hadn't put my screen share on pause as I was flicking through those slides. Sorry about that. Okay, so as you can see, it's manageable, certainly motivating, and certainly an area where I think you can learn lots and push yourself into that zone of proximal development, or out of your comfort zone. Yeah, I'm gonna also show you basically how you are the different tools and the actual preparation course that will help you with as well to be able to achieve all this. Okay, so we can see the breakdown of the marking. Cambridge are very, very strict on certainly the presentation or organization, but we'll help you with that. Okay, so you've got the general grasp of the specific issues related to that specific specialism. Then the situation analysis and the analysis of the data you've collected, which is the springboard into the proposal and the reasoning behind it. And then we've got our project management and change management kind of suggestion with the implementation. And then just making sure everything is presented in the right way. Okay, just so that you know, these are the grades for pass with distinction, merit, and a pass. Okay, again, just a quick review of the different areas that each specialism involves. There's quite a lot there for HR, so human resource management. Got customer service, let you read what the definition of that. One area of customer service I find very interesting is the customer experience mapping, which is basically where you get a timeline and you go from the very beginning saying, right, let's have a look at the touch points with a customer. How do they hear? What do they see before they even walk through the door about the company? And then analyze all the touch points, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and identifying the wow moments, which could be as they get to the front desk, there's a little bowl of sweets. I'm sure you've been at hotels where you've taken a handful of those or just the one, and it's like, oh, that's nice. Or there's a jar of water that with oranges or lemons in it or something that you can help yourself to the water. Very common in hotels nowadays. It's all about that experience and measuring it as well. And then there's the marketing side of things. Okay, so just a reminder before we look at the other elements of the ELT management course that we can help you with. Things to keep in mind. Remember, you need access to a language teaching organization, and there may be some sensitive information. The good way to kind of approach that would be to say, listen, I need X, Y, and Z, but in exchange, you're going to get a project with the action plan and exactly how to do it using minimal or accessible resources. And by implementing that project, your center will improve. It will make money, or it will make more students, or it will just improve word of mouth marketing. You're going to make more money is the end game, really. Okay. So you remember to narrow down your focus. And yes, avoid plagiarism like the plague. and then keeping to the guidelines. Okay. Before we move on, any questions?
Can I ask a silly question?
Please.
Yeah. Now, regarding if I decide, for example, to write about a specialism in HR, how would is this related directly for example, expanding the number of students in this school?
That's
it's
what
a different.
Yeah, no, well, that's what we would need that might be related to marketing, expanding numbers. Okay, could be. Basically, what would happen is we would initially have a first kind of introductory meeting to say, well, tell us about your organization. How does it work? And I'll be kind of pulling questions from you, just to find, to get you thinking about the organization, and for me to understand your organization as well. Remember, every organization is very different, and that will get you thinking in a way of, oh, actually, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That is a bit of an issue. For example, somebody was telling me about their organization and said, no, I think we need professional development for teachers. And I said, oh, really interesting. Tell me about your organization. Well, it's a school, it's a center, it's about 25 minutes outside the city. Oh, how do teachers and students get there? Oh, yeah, the transport system's terrible. Everybody's always complaining about, how to physically get there. And they often arrive late because there's only a couple of buses. The teachers are very stressed because the time of the bus means that they get there maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours early. And they just sit there thinking, now what do I do? This is my time, because there aren't other options. And then speaking, this teacher realized, oh, well, actually, this organization is a government organization. They have the money to lay on a minibus. Wouldn't that make life easier for teachers? Okay, well, that might be something to, as part of a bigger project. It's not just, the solution is not fork out on a minibus. It's part of other things as well. But it was one element that she was unaware of that was causing stress. And therefore the project became, can we lower the effective filter of the teachers, because it's having a negative impact on students. Teachers coming into their classroom already stressed and flustered. That doesn't impact very well on students, does it, immediately?
As well.
Exactly, yeah. And students as well, yeah, definitely. They're coming in a bit.
And that maybe indirectly may increase student numbers, because they will leave away satisfied. They'll be happy. And word of mouth and so on.
Word of mouth marketing.
But you would need to procure, what's the word? To get approval of quoting maybe what Paul called sensitive information. And you need to talk to your HR department. Are they happy for you to quote current student numbers? Obviously, in your assignment, you would not be naming the school as such. You would be using maybe a pseudonym for the school. You would call it something else. But the numbers would have to be real. The numbers currently are low, so we need to increase the numbers to what is your projected target. Is your school happy for you to share that kind of data? There is confidentiality in the way you present your information. Cambridge will not publish this information to anyone. But some people are not happy disclosing private data of this kind. I'm thinking like, not Daniel's school, but I'm thinking of similar teaching operations in Athens, where if you ask them how many students do you have and how much do they pay, they would just, their hair would stand on end. I won't give you that information.
Industrial espionage.
Yeah. So what are you planning to do? Start the school next door to me? Is that what you want? And you know, people freak out if you ask them for that kind of detail. So, but there are other ways in which a school can improve.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah,
I
it doesn't
think
have to be all that.
I mean, I'm not a great manager for finances myself, but but I think there are ways that you can improve a school in other ways. And I'm sure if you're interested in the subject, you will find a way. I think if I could chip in a little something here, I would say that having completed an ELT management project puts you up as a good candidate for positions of responsibility in many schools, both in the UK and in many different countries such as Saudi Arabia, the Emirates. They do look for people, you know, and I've had people in the past who went in as Delta holders, and the minute they mentioned that they had an ELT management module 3, they were immediately treated as potential line managers or department heads or curriculum coordinators, whatever you might call it, you know, given positions of responsibility or authority over a group of teachers, such as what you have now, Sama. But maybe that would kind of resonate more with developing your teachers, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be a good, since you have that data anyway. You have a group of people that you can work with.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, in the other added advantage to, well, the what will make you more sellable as an academic manager is knowing that you've done the ELT will sell Athens, and therefore you've basically learned so much from their course. Let me show you what that would look like. Our course would look like this on Moodle, which will, let me just zoom in a little bit more for you, which will look at the specific syllabus specifications and the area as well. Okay, so do you remember our conversation before? Just at the beginning, we were looking at management and leadership, and one of the things that we'll be exploring on this course is certainly that. Definitely how organizations work and that impact on organizational culture as well. Exploring human resource management, academic management. As I said before, project management is important. There's marketing and customer service. And if we have a look very quickly, we'll have a look at the materials available to get some background reading and concepts of management and leadership. And as you can see, there's a lovely introduction modules, as well as interactive tasks and forums in order to share ideas with each other. So it's very much it's asynchronous, but it's a very collaborative and interactive course. So as we go through the different elements, we're not going to look at all of them now. There's a very comprehensive coverage of the different areas with, if we have a look at as well the reading list, and there's no obligation whatsoever in order to purchase these, but there are certain recommended things to read right now. For example, you could go onto this website and start reading articles around leadership and management. These are open source, they're free for you to access, and very, very useful snippets. Some of the articles are already being used on a master's and master's courses around the world on leadership management, and why not access those and have a look at those. And then you can see the reading list divided into each different area as well. Okay, but again, with the collaboration of your tutor, you would be guided into towards a particular area and have certain materials recommended to you as well. Okay. Once you start on the course as well, you'll also be given a document like this. This is a Google Doc. This will be where you start writing, and it's kind of a collaborative document whereby your tutor will be able to add comments and guidance, feedback, corrections, maybe suggestions. And as you can see, what it starts with is everything we've already seen before, just a breakdown. So a reminder, basically, of this presentation again.
Really like a template, doesn't it? You could
well, yeah, exactly. That's it. That's exactly what this is. Yeah, yeah. So just a reminder of the different sections, and then this is where you need to choose, right, which one is my specialism. Definitely there'll be kind of sub-specialisms, but you need to focus on just one. And then your front page. So you could include a working title, which can change before you finally submit. That's not a problem. There's statement of originality, like in every assignment. You're going to have to include that table of contents, but notice each section. So remember, we mentioned the introduction with the background reading. We said it was 1,200 words. Again, here you've got a breakdown of what you should be doing. You should be looking at least 5 to 6 key sources on whatever specialism you're looking at, and critically analyzing and talking and discussing those. But then, and this is where I think this document comes in very handy. So you would start writing here, but you would have to ensure that what's highlighted in yellow, those questions are certainly all answered within what you're writing. So that's the introduction. If we scroll down, do you remember I said before, your situation analysis should come first, because that tends to be the springboard into everything else. Yeah. And as you can see, the questions, the guiding questions to help you focus on that, a lot more extensive. Sorry, not expensive. A lot more detailed. And again, just answering the questions will guide you to ensuring you have the information you need. Here, you've got a breakdown of just the situation analysis section. And again, a few more questions or information that you'll need. We mentioned about different tools to carry out that situation analysis, and they are here, as you can see. Don't get worried. You don't have to do all of these analyses, okay? Depending on what you're going to be focusing on, your conversation with me or with your tutor would be, right, okay, what would be the most appropriate here, okay? And then conclusion, just remember just that section. If we move on, then we've got then the proposal and so on and so forth. Okay, I'm not going to go through each part individually, but again, guidance of what to write. Basically, as I say, your situation analysis will allow both of us to see what you should be doing and how you should be doing it. It's kind of like, you know, when you do a needs analysis on a student and their problems with, I don't know, the pronouncing ed of past regular verbs incorrectly is just shouting out at you, and you go, right, well, if that's their problem, I know how to fix it. That's the fixing it is almost the easy part. Yeah, but it's identifying what the issue is first. Then at the end of this document, you'll see very extensive checklists, again, to help you ensure that you've included everything that you need to. You've included everything you need to for the examiner, okay? And again, you would go through, check these off, and I would just make sure, right, you've got all that there as well. You'll be able to see the criteria that the assessor will be using. And I think, as Marissa said before, the assessor is just another Delta qualified tutor who doesn't, maybe has no experience as in higher levels of management, but is able to read your assignment and say, okay, tell me about your language teaching organization. What's the problem? What's your proposed solution? Does it make sense to me? And could I implement your proposal with what you've written? Could they take it away and do it themselves? And the answer has to be yes. Very much like when you're writing a lesson plan. When I write a detailed lesson plan, could any teacher pick that up and teach the same lesson? So it's same idea. So, you know, we're not asking you to do anything different from what you've already done. Carry on with more checklists. Again, this one is the nitty-gritty of presenting your assignment.
Say something?
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
There are a few people watching this, apart from our trainees. So if I could just add a small detail that when you are thinking of Module 3 assignments, we're generally telling candidates for Module 3 assignments such as using CLIL or writing a syllabus for ELT exams and so on, you really need to finish Modules 1 and 2 first, so that you acquire a good broad basis of ELT principles, research in language acquisition, syllabus design, and so on. But in order to implement, to write an assignment on ELT management, it's a standalone course that you can do individually. You don't need to do, and this is not for you who are in the middle of doing your modules 1 and 2, obviously. But someone who wants to start with ELT management potentially could, because the content is relating to an organization. For example, if you're thinking about creating a teacher development program for teachers, you don't have to write the program. So you don't have to be a teacher trainer in order to decide that your group of teachers needs professional development. You just need to identify what kind of professional development they need by asking them. And
you would need to identify 6 hours at least. But you wouldn't have to, I think, as Marissa says, you wouldn't have to actually prepare the content of each of those 6 hours. For example. Yeah.
But you would need to ask them what they need, or to find out from someone what they need, and propose that someone like Paul or myself or someone else could come and implement that program for your staff. Does that make sense? So you don't have to write the content, or if you say we need better tests, you don't actually need to write the tests in order to, you know, but you need to identify the needs of the school and what kinds of tests they need. That's why it's something that you can do independently of the course content of modules 1 and 2. You can start from that. That's the only module 3 topic that you can start first, you know, you can begin with that. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, good point. To be honest, I honestly see this. I did, when I did Delta, I did 9 months distance, and I did all 3 modules all together, basically because the 3 modules weren't separated. It was all the one package back in the day that when we had to chisel the phonemic script onto cave walls, you know. Back.
That's how this group is doing it as well. They're doing an integrated course.
Okay, right. Integrated, yeah. So you guys are doing it. Wow, yeah, brilliant. So basically, I wasn't told about the management option. Actually, I was just told, yeah, you have to do this. So I said, right, well, what do I do? Young learners or exams? And I did the exam focused. Anyway, so the assignment was useful, and it benefited my teaching massively. But my teaching. Did it help the organization I was working for at the time? No, not really. It was more focused with the way I was.
The reason is that not all centers offer the ELT management option. All Delta centers don't all do
Yeah,
that.
they don't exactly. They're a very, yeah,
Just
exactly.
like, for example, I would hesitate to support myself a Module 3 project on learning difficulties because I'm not a dyslexia expert, for example, but I would employ someone who can and knows about, learning difficulties. But I couldn't support it myself. I don't have the necessary background, literature, reading and stuff. But yeah, management is a good topic for career development. And what you need to do is find a school. If you don't have a school that's friendly and amenable, find a school, Sophia.
Is it
Maybe
good if
we can use our school.
option.
is it
Sorry, Sam.
good, Melissa, if you are thinking to open, for example, your own center in the future?
That's a little bit more
No, because there isn't a center.
difficult, yeah, because you can't analyze anything that's there.
There's no situation analysis. This is a business plan, and the Module 3 is about an existing language teaching operation.
Yes, I know. I will make it on an existed school, for example, my school, but can I use it later if, for example, I'm thinking to open a small center or something, or it won't work?
But that would be your own use, though, after, I mean, of course, anything you
Cannot be your
produce.
project. That's
Yeah.
what Paul is saying.
Yeah. So if the project were based on, I'm going to, analyze situation analysis of this school, have a look at its strengths, its weaknesses, what are the opportunities, and then the opportunities, you put forward a proposal for the opportunity, and then do you present it to your centre, or do you do you just go, right, this is my opportunity?
Start your own school with those opportunities.
I'm treading lightly here because, but then, as I say, what you do with the assignment and your research afterwards, that's your choice. I personally, when people are saying, oh, but how do I get this sensitive information? How do I find out or research a center? I honestly encourage them to approach the manager, the school owner, or whoever you need to talk to, and say, listen, this project at a master's level is going to bring you money, no matter what. And that's when they listen, because it is. Let's an example: a teacher development program. Well, it's going to improve the quality of the teachers. That's the objective. Brilliant. Okay, teacher, and then go through the steps. It's logical, isn't it? Improve the quality of the teachers. That's going to impact positively on students. They get sort of 5 stars more. They start talking a little bit more about how wonderful the classes are. That increases student numbers. That's money. Look at that. Brilliant. Right. For example. Doesn't have to be teacher development. It could be academic manager
and I have to think of what kind of development program teachers would take.
That's the easy part, because that would come from conversations that we would have as well, to say, well, tell me about what do you do, what happens, what are your teachers' needs at the moment. Then we would identify how would you collect that information. So you would do a needs analysis, or it could be a simple questionnaire to teachers. What are you good at? What are you not so good at? What would you like more of? What would you like less of? Something like that. And then from that, you'll be able to see, oh, I didn't realize that we're telling them to teach phonics, but there's 60 to 70% of teachers are saying they don't feel fully confident in phonics. Voila. Notice the way the situation analysis, for me, is like a needs analysis. It tells you where to go and almost plans itself. That's why, for me, that's it.
Summer.
Because I'm thinking of many things. I don't know.
There's lots of yeah. I think this is
I'm happy and surprised.
surprised of the opportunity. I think this assignment is certainly one of these things where, oh, wow, and recently we had somebody focus on it was schools abroad in the UK, and they just wanted to cover loads of things and solve too many things in that one assignment. And I said, sorry, you're going to have to focus on one. Oh, but I want to fix everything. He's like, yeah, I know, but can't do it.
Narrow your focus, just like we do in module 2 assignments, right? You come up with an idea, I want to do everything about the present perfect.
Yes.
And I just begin
And
to
then you
tell
do
you
nothing.
all the conditionals, and I just say, well, that's too broad, and we need to narrow it down, and so on. Everything I know about reading skills development. What?
In a 45-minute lesson. Yeah.
Yeah. In 2,500 words? Good God.
Yeah.
So, any questions?
Any questions?
There are no questions for people watching, so I'm hoping they're not asleep. Hello. Leave us a comment if you are watching.